let's talk about it for just our general audience. Like, why is case planning important for investigators?
So, first of all, just a side thought that I just had about case planning and why, like, I feel like some people might love it and some people might find this to be like kind of the boring or like the less exciting part of the investigation process. It's not like when you're really digging in and doing the analysis and doing the research and like uncovering fun stuff. Like I feel like a lot of people love that part. It's almost like, some people hate to read the instructions before they like assemble a piece of IKEA furniture or
Yep.
whatever. I'm like a huge instructions reader. So I love to just like get that big picture out of the way up front and like see where I'm going to end up. And so I think if you enjoy that, you too will fall in love with case planning. But even if you don't, just take it from us that it is super essential. I mean, we'll kind of go through the reasons that it is, you know, the key to the data sleuth process. But um, I would say the main reasons that it's so important for investigators is it's what's going to keep you focused on that end goal and not getting lost in the weeds. So I kind of sound like a broken record here, but that's just because that's, I feel like, a really high risk, especially for a lot of investigators who do tend to like, we probably tend to be like really curious people by nature. And so it's easy to kind of follow your own curiosity and just keep doing the parts of the investigation that are like really fun. But with a case plan, you're going to stay focused on that end goal. What does the client actually need for you? From you, what's going to add value for them, and not go down those rabbit trails. It definitely helps you keep asking yourself, why am I doing this task for every task that you do? So that's going to keep costs down for clients while getting them all the answers that they want, if those answers are possible to get, within reason. Um, it kind of ensures that the analysis that you're doing is going to help meet your client's goals. Um, Often that's going to be quantifying a loss and identifying benefit to the subject, because those are going to be components of a fraud. But, it can be a little different depending on the case you're looking at. But having a case plan is going to help you keep each analysis that you're doing aligned with whatever those goals are. One of the things that I love, and I think is just really saves a lot of time and money and heartache down the road, is a good case plan can help you anticipate data availability issues and analysis issues that are going to come up later. I mean, there are always going to be surprises or wrenches that get thrown into things, but if you really put the effort to like see what data you have, and kind of think through what you want to do with it at the outset, that just is much easier. Because you don't want to end up telling the client you can do something and then you find out that the data they have available is not, sometimes you can get really creative and answer their question with bad data, but sometimes it just might not be possible. Um, so a good case plan, I think, is going to help you identify those issues as early in the process as possible, which is just good for everyone. Um, that also keeps the case moving. I feel like um, we've honestly always had a good case planning process since I got here 3 years ago. Like, you guys were kind of already doing it, but I do feel like we've gotten better and better at this. And I just think I've heard like Leah and Megan say that earlier we would have more of an issue with everyone's like working along and then, oh shoot, I open up this spreadsheet that I was going to join to this other spreadsheet and it doesn't actually have what I need, or,
Mhm.
we're missing 3 random months of bank statements in like a really important time period or whatever. And so a case plan is going to help you um, get those issues addressed earlier, so work doesn't have to like grind to a halt. It's just is a lot more time efficient. And especially as our caseload has grown, if you're juggling multiple cases, um, it's essential to know that you have what you need up front and not kind of run into that stuff last minute. And then finally, if this isn't enough of a sales pitch, I think a huge benefit of a good case plan is that it's a tool for making sure that as an investigator, you are on the same page as the client and or their attorney. And I always think of, we had like a pretty unique case involving a school district. Um, and for that one, it was just when we planned it, it felt like a little outside our wheelhouse. And I later in the case came to feel like, no, this was a perfect case for us, but it wasn't like immediately obvious why it was. But our initial plan, we sent back to them and we're like, hey, here's what we're going to do for you. And the attorney was like, this isn't what we want. And,
Like,
it's
completely wrong. Like, I don't
like
think I've ever been completely
like
wrong.
none of the concerns. She was like, "No, you said we were concerned about like A, B, and C, but like actually it's X, Y, and Z." And we're like, "I'm glad that we had this conversation now."
Which I yeah, I hadn't thought about this case before we started recording, but what we gave them was exactly what they told us they were concerned about.
I think this is another thing that's great about the case plan is that a lot of times like clients don't even really know what they want. Or, like, they think they know, but until if you then, like, kind of spell it back to them in this more organized way, like, "Okay, we think you are interested in finding the answer to this, this, and here's what we're gonna do to find it." Only once they see it kind of put in that framework, they can say, "Oh, that's not no." And they still might not even know what they want. It's kind of like when someone in your family is like, "Ooh, I don't really wanna eat at this restaurant you suggested," but they don't, like, give you another
Right.
suggestion.
Right.
Like, clients, it's okay that they do this, but a lot of times they do that, they're like, "Oh, this isn't what I want, but I don't know what I do want." But I feel like the case plan process can be, like, an awesome communication tool, for making sure that you guys are on the same page, helping them clarify what their goals are, because you're kind of making them set a goal at the beginning
Right.
instead of just saying, "We're gonna investigate," which is just not gonna be a great use of resources.
Something else that I honestly had not thought of until something you just said about all your favorite things about case planning, is that it allows us, like, knowing that we have this process that we're about to walk through step by step, but knowing that we have this case planning workshop or case planning process, it allows us, I think, to be more creative about the investigations that we can actually take on. So it doesn't have to fit within the four corners of like an embezzlement investigation. And the client doesn't have to know how somebody stole, but then it doesn't have to feel like giving somebody a blank check to investigate every area of their business that, I mean, this goes back to the risk-based analysis, but every area that has a risk to make sure like it provides this organized framework like you talked about, but then we can take cases like this one with the school district that I think before case planning, I would have been like, "Yeah, I think we can probably figure out analysis to do that." But I just usually know that whatever the client is coming like, it doesn't even have to be financial information. In that case, it was not. There was, like, no financial data in that case, I think.
Yeah, not really. It
And
was like comparing contracts.
right. And, it was an investigation.
Mhm.
And so I think it's really this process empowers an investigator to say, okay, this is really a framework for solving problems for clients in an exploratory way, but with structure so that, and this is the part I know I said I wouldn't talk about this as a business owner, but I can't help it. But it reduces the risk of client dissatisfaction. It reduces the risk of bad Google reviews. It reduces the risk of non-payment. And so, and all of those things are important in order to stay in business. We've been in business 11 years now. I mean, it's been touch or go, touch and go a few times in the past, but this is what really made it like, oh my gosh, we can answer clients' questions. And then I think that fine line sometimes for testifying experts is, yeah, but I can't be hired to say what the client wants me to say. But this framework allows us to say, okay, we're going to take your problem, your concern, your questions, and we're going to create a plan to address those things and give you the results of those findings. And it may not be what you want it to be. We're not promising that. So,
That's a great point too. Another thing that I love about it is it's a excellent framework for because yeah, I could see how a lot of people might say like, "Oh, well, how do you reconcile providing fantastic client service with the fact that you are need to be this impartial third party?" And to me, those things aren't contradictory at all because I see every day how we execute these case plans that do exactly that. But like I could see how that could be a concern, but this kind of helps you make sure that like you are addressing what the client wants you to address, but you're still doing it in a neutral exploratory or you said some word investigation. I don't know. You're doing it neutrally. You're not just like getting the client thing. You are answering the questions the client wants you to answer. You're not necessarily getting the answers the client wants you to get, if that makes
yes,
sense.
yes.